Okay, so this is a short little look at an idea that one of the first ideas that was in a previous video that I made. The first idea that was mentioned, well, not actually the first idea was the cosmological argument, but you can Google what that means. A brief summary is basically it's a method of arguing for God. So it's not just one singular argument, but rather it's a entire category of different types of arguments. And I was making the claim that the type of argument that I was making was of the cosmological sort. And the first idea that I want to look at more depth in, that was in that little amalgamation of ideas that formed an argument, is the idea that there can be something that is more necessarily true than oneself. That was the first question I asked, is what is more necessarily true than oneself? And you might think that that's a very unreasonable thing to ask. This is Arcania, by the way. I'm playing as a mage. It's my favorite type of character. So there's a concept that I think, therefore I exist. It's typically phrased, I think, therefore I am. But what's more important than that is that you think you exist. Right? That other thing is just an argument that's a bit vague, that sort of says, well, you do exist because you think you exist. Well, not even because you think you exist, but because you think at all. Whatever you are thinking, because you are thinking it, even if it's a thought that you do not exist, you do exist because you can think. And the claim there, the underlying assumption, is that nothing could be thinking for you or create an illusion of an existence that doesn't actually exist, which is a claim that doesn't have any reason to be true because of how much greater we can see this illusion is than ourselves. The being that could have created this illusion or existence, whatever it is, which we haven't decided yet, must be so much greater and so much more vast than we are, more vast than we could even know. Even just this existence is more vast than we could even imagine. That's really satisfying. Anyway, I think it's perfectly reasonable to suggest that perhaps that existence would be perfectly capable, or existences, because we haven't confirmed if it's one yet or not, would be perfectly capable of creating an illusion that you exist, allowing that illusion to think without that illusion existing in and of itself. So, for example, multiple things thinking that they exist, imagining all of this with multiple different perspectives. In fact, our own limits of our limitation and logic cannot apply to these creations because they would exist outside of time and all that. So the unspeakable greatness of these existences, that would have to be the case, a mere minimum standard, just by what we can see around us, is so impressive that I don't think that I think therefore I am is any type of assurance, because it makes an assumption that I do not believe it is safe to make, which is that they are limited in a way that we are limited, which it wouldn't have to be at all, because we don't have to be created with all of the dimensions or capabilities of our creator, and we don't have to exist with all of those dimensions. And the thing I'm pointing out here is that there's an unbased assumption. And what you want to do to get to the most robust worldview is eliminate unreasonable assumptions. So, before any other type of understanding happens, you want to try to remove unreasonable assumptions, and as many as you can, and you want to understand what assumptions you're keeping and why. And that's, roughly speaking, the best starting point. And that's very important to do, actually. But we'll move on for now. The trouble is, if we don't exist, right, then something makes us think that we do. That can't be disputed. So while it can be disputed that there is you can point out, well, there's an assumption in the I think therefore I am statement that is unbased and unreasonable. It's unreasonable in a theoretical sense, not in the theoretical sense, it's unreasonable. In the most theoretical of senses, in any form of practical sense, it's completely reasonable. In fact, even asking the question is unreasonable, because what could you do about it if you didn't exist? Probably not a lot, right? Because you don't exist. So, trouble is that at this stage there is a reasonable worldview that denies one's own existence by removing an assumption that has no basis for it and probably is wrong. So we need a better argument, or we need to simply say, well, we're wrong, but we're going to pretend that we aren't. Or we need to just be unreasonable and take an argument or worldview that we know is weaker. And if we're going to do that, then we shouldn't make a claim to truth, and then we don't exist would be the theoretical statement, which means it all comes into a cycle of sort of not working, and you just sort of have to ignore it. And that's a really bad idea, because there's actually something very precious and very important to be gained from understanding what is this great and powerful and actually most important existence of them all that is behind all of this. And why should there be an existence behind all of this? Because eventually there has to be some sort of starting point that has to be outside of time, because time cannot have a starting point without having something to cause the starting point. That's where the cosmological element comes in, by the way. So now that worldview is a bit questionable, because if that is correct, then why in this illusion is truth greater than lies and light greater than darkness? I use the light greater than darkness not as like the epitome of the argument, but just as a really useful analogy that humans I think can understand quite well and intuit. It's very intuitive to us. Let's imagine, right, like there's light. So you can see no light, shadows, right? We put light and there's light, right? Now there might be shadows, but the shadows are only there because there's something blocking the light, right? So, and that thing has to be a real thing of substance. It's not like the light just disappears, it's just being used on the thing rather, right? So light is like unexplainably greater than darkness, because light relative to light, darkness basically doesn't exist. Darkness is like the absence of light when compared to light. It's just the lack of light. And that means that darkness's substance is substantially less than light's is, right? Light can be seen as a thing that can be sent, that can be understood, that can have an impact, that can give an understanding by showing you things. It can be useful, and when we understand the difference between light and darkness, I'm saying that that is comparable to the difference between truth and lies. Lies are able to hide things, able to make you see things that aren't there, but those things don't exist just because you see them. Darkness fundamentally doesn't actually change anything about reality. Let me see if I can get up here. Oh, I actually think I know a way. This is a annoying spot because it stops you from going back if you forgot any quests in this game. There's much prettier territory down that way, which is why I'm trying to get back there, but I can't. Oh, there we go. So yeah. So it's worth noting that in a reality created by this existence or existences, because we haven't decided if it's one or multiple yet. Actually, we can decide that, but we won't do that quite yet. In this world, why, if the cause of this, of all of this, in fact, in this situation, you would just see yourself as the only thing that you know is even not yourself, your illusion of yourself is the only thing that you know of, because any other person would simply be a part of that illusion. In fact, an illusion to the illusion, which means they can simply be discounted, which is a part of why this worldview is harmful, by the way. Because, well, anyway, that's not too important right now. But because we're going to show why this worldview is false. If this creator, if this cause is simply an illusioner, creates illusions, then darkness should be greater than light. If there's light and darkness comes, the light should be the thing that is blasted away, rather than the darkness that simply ceases to be. Well, there might be darkness over there. If you put a torch there, there just wouldn't be darkness. It's not like the darkness would have a fight with the light. The darkness can't fight with the light. It's so much less than light. It's just the lack of light. It can do nothing, absolutely nothing. So, the why shouldn't that disrespect the illusion? And it would. And ultimately, we can know that whatever exists, whatever caused it, whatever exists would be from that thing that had caused it, which means that it would be to the glory of the thing that had caused it, which is a part of why whatever causes existence has to be perfect, because existence comes from it. So perfection is actually based in it. So we can always know that we would have a perfect God, but that's not too important right now. So the important thing is that our world makes absolutely no sense if it's an illusion, because it glorifies a creator. So if it were by the fact that existence is greater than not existence, which means that an illusioner would have no reason to make this illusion. And if, obviously this game isn't talking about reality, and if this were an illusion, if all of this were an illusion, then it would be remarkably different. It would be designed such that lies would be greater than truth, because in reality that would be true, because there would be an illusion behind it all, which means that all that there would be lies. Which means that, this obviously isn't created by an illusioner, but rather by a creator. And that is a more robust worldview, because we can understand that it gives us an understanding of why this world is the way it is. Why is existence greater than non-existence? And it removes the need for that assumption. It means that at this point, you have made absolutely no assumptions, and you know that there is a creator. And everything that you see could be false. Right? You could just be crazy. But even so, your craziness wouldn't really matter, because the way that things are still the way things are. And thus, you still have a creator. And so, there are zero assumptions at this point. You have a creator regardless, because of the nature of existence itself. So that's just an explanation of that first point. Hopefully this is helpful. And yeah, that's the end of the video.